I do hope so. I mean, the idea of this was to make people look closely at those things that surround them immediately. And I think we always walk past things. And maybe we give a second thought to something that we notice out of the corner of our eye. But asking people what may seem like a gimmick, which may seem like a sort of a game, this alphabetical list, you've got to create that list, has been a way in which local people, I've been pleased to say, and I've been delighted by the response, have looked closely, and because I've asked them to look at things that are significant, that they want to trumpet, because this exhibition is going to be on show to people who are visiting the city as well as people who live here, that there are things that they think they're proud of. And when people say they're proud of the city of Bath, there's a narrative about the city of Bath, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, which is Georgian elegance, Roman remains, health tourism. I mean, you all know the story. I mean, the idea of this was to show in 312 pictures and 312 little bits of description that there's a lot of detail that people should be proud of as well.
I'm not expecting you to acknowledge and remember everything on these boards, but personally speaking, do you have a couple of favourites you could share with us?
Well, one of the things, I mean, I've lived in Bath practically my entire life. So some of the things, about half of the things that have been suggested, I was familiar with, but there were some that not even I had heard of. One is that the oldest recorded horseshoe bat was found in an abandoned stoneworking in Bath Ford. And as the letter B for the Bath Ford district, they have Boris the Bat, because this is the name that they've given it. And quite how anyone decided it was the oldest known horseshoe bat in the country is not I don't know. But that's one of the things I certainly wasn't aware of.
Well, what about relics, obvious things you can see on a daily basis? Anything stick in your mind or come to mind there?
Well, the lists that have been drawn up are partial, because quite a number of these groups would say, well, look, we've got 5 things that begin with S, we've got 5 things that begin with T. How can you make us just choose one? And I said, well, unfortunately, that's the law. We'll put these things on display, we'll typeset it, we'll print it, we'll do everything, providing you supply the raw material. And I said, that's the only restriction. You can only have one. What more do you want? And so as a result, there's only some things. But one thing I would point out is the carving of St. Michael, which is above the door of the old St. Michael's Church Hall in Walcott Street, which is now an Italian restaurant, which really is quite something. And I think if you are looking for stone carvings in the city, you tend to think of the Abbey. But if you go to the former St. Michael's Church Hall, there is a wonderful carving above the door.
The exhibition is on for how long?
Indefinitely. Having agreed that this was that we felt this was a good mechanism of getting local people engaged in presenting things at the museum. And I do think, and we were talking a little earlier about the M Shed in Bristol, where a similar thing is in place, where local communities are being asked to suggest the content. The museum decides the form, you might say, but the raw material is derived from the community itself. This may be the first step in a whole series of similar projects, because in this particular case, we've gone to one audience, you might say. It could be that in a couple of years' time, we attempt the same sort of project with, say, a primary school in 12 districts of the city. Or, there are 85,000 stories in a city like Bath, and everyone has a different perspective as to things that they think are important. So although this exhibition is on until we can think of something else, I think it's hopefully a way forward for this museum to engage local people.